men, sportsmen, are looking for something. We're all kind of looking for something that we chase to the top of a mountain. But I think they're still missing some stuff. They're missing some components of how does a man live fully alive.
Well, we've been going after the hearts of men for a lot of years. Those of you that don't know my past, like it's just I come out of the rodeo world, spending 16 years mentoring professional athletes and seeing that there's just this real common fear going on in men is that they don't really know who they are, so they're trying to establish who they are. They're trying to prove themselves over and over again. And so, over the last several years, we've partnered with different ministries, different men that I know, and we've always wanted to create some sort of experience for men to have these activities to do and a way to just build camaraderie and then actually just learn how to be emotionally aware of what's going on in your life, be able to know why it is that you do what you do, who it is that you are. But the beauty of this and what I love that Rob has brought to this whole conversation is that he's already got a world-class shooting school in place that the price didn't go up on the shooting school. Like it's still the same price as it was when it's just the shooting school. But I know your heart, Rob, is it's just with your own personal story and watching how many people come to the mountain trying to figure out how can I feel like I'm an accomplished man? How can I feel more masculine? How can I feel more dangerous? Um, and they might achieve that on the mountain, but they go home still broken and they have to prove themselves again and again. And so that's the beauty of this whole concept of what we're going to do up at Big Park is get men together. We're going to do something awesome as far as learning how to shoot. We got to, just in one shooting school, Rob took me from, I'd miss at 400 yards all the time to where I wouldn't miss at 1,000 yards just at the end of a 3-day school. Like it was just unbelievable. I've shot my whole life and I didn't know what I didn't know. Like there's so much excellence and expertise. Like this is world-class training that you're giving guys. But in the context of that, we're all going to bring out the best in each other. We're going to have some serious conversations.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, I think that like the shooting class we went to with you, Rob, is like the natural progression of the conversations that arise with guys in that setting. When guys are in the mountains, they're away from their life, their phones are turned off. Like it's such a perfect setting for guys to actually encounter the Lord. Like it really is, even if that's not their intention. Like, I don't know, it was just crazy to me to see the amount of guys that responded to just conversations we had.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just up there to shoot, but I mean, the conversations were just amazing. And I think that the thing that set this idea apart from me, from anything else we've ever thought about doing, is the fact that what we're doing is real. Like it's not like we're trying to stage something adventurous for guys. We're not trying to make you feel like a man but keep you safe at the same time. Like this is a real thing. Like you're actually gonna progress your ability to be deadly as a shooter. And I know for me as a younger man, like knowing that it's not even a macho masculine thing. It's just something that the Lord put inside of us to want to be able to feel dangerous. Like that's not something that is bad or wrong in us, but it's actually something that he designed for us to put in. And I mean, a comparison we've used a lot of time, Rob, talking to you is the mighty men of David. Like that was just like such a huge thing for me even as a kid reading 1st and 2nd Samuel. Like that was huge for me. It's just like, wow, like the Bible talks about guys that are that badass. Like they're like the toughest guys you could ever imagine. And we're such a society of weak men. And I don't even think it's that men are weak nowadays. I think it's that men never have the opportunity to be strong. And so never have an opportunity to feel dangerous, to feel like they have any power or anything like that. And so they look in other areas for that. Yeah. And so for us to be able to cultivate an environment where you're going to do something that has nothing to do with you trying to pump up your ego or make you feel better about yourself. It's just a legitimate thing that you're going to learn how to do. And I mean, it's all live ammo, and it's not like we're going out and, I mean, it's in the mountains. There's no safety regulations. Like, this is the real deal.
Yeah.
And for me, that makes it so much cooler.
Well, and I think, you know, and Rob's seen this a ton with, as a professional outfitter and a guide, that men want to do something dangerous, just like you're discussing. And I've watched you grow as a man, and just the accomplishments have come out of a place of knowing who you are rather than trying to prove yourself again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just feel like in this context, we've got, you know, 2 seasoned fathers and a son that's super mature as far as what it is that you have to add to conversation on how do we become better fathers, and we need to learn how to become better sons.
Yeah.
And that if I'm a son to God first, then I can be a better father and a better husband. And so just the natural conversations that will come up on the mountain, but we're also going to be super intentional about why is it that every man wants to be powerful,
Mm-hmm.
and why is it that the world is so afraid of that? And the only response the world has to say about it is, okay, we need to dull men down. We need to build women up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if those aren't 2 different things? What if men can be super strong and powerful, but they use their strength to give life and encouragement to everybody around them? That I believe it's God's intention, that he made us with that desire to be wild and to be dangerous, so that we can be those that love with such sacrifice that everybody around us feels safer just because of our presence. And that doesn't mean you have to shoot guns to be dangerous.
Yeah.
I think you can be dangerous in an office setting because you're not afraid to engage in conversations that are tough.
Yeah.
Or you're not afraid to do something that's the right thing when the wrong thing would have been way easier to do.
Yeah.
And so courage is showing up in everyday practical life. But this is, like, I'm stoked about it, because when we get up on that mountain, everybody's going to feel something inside their heart that they didn't even know was there shift. And we'll give language to it. You're going to become a killer shot. I saw a guy, Rob, last year at your camp. He didn't even know how to hold a gun. And by the end of the class, he was pinging 700 yards?
650, 700 yards. Yeah.
Like every time. And he couldn't believe it. He's like, I can't believe I'm actually doing this. You're throwing a piece of lead that far, and it's dropping 50 feet out of the air and hitting a piece of metal. So it's for everybody. Anybody that has a desire to become a better man, become a better shot. Yeah. And, you know, I think, Rob, it'd be good for you to just give a bit of, like, you ain't just a hunting guide. Like, you're an expert marksman that's trained other marksmen. So give a bit of your history with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been in the outfitting business for approaching 30 years, and I learned, you know, right away, you know, setting up a shot, being able to be a proficient shooter, but, you know, also being a guide that could set it up, you know, made a big difference in success. And I got into predator hunting. That pushed my personal shooting to the next level. Mm-hmm. I had the opportunity to do some training trips with some special forces teams. They were doing the shooting. I was teaching pack animal skills, so I learned from them. So I literally was taking skills directly from some of our top tier 1 special forces units and applying it to the hunting world. And so we've been doing the shooting class for about 6 years now. We've had competitive shooters, we've had military trained shooters, and what we're training is real. I mean, it's not we're not on a flat range out in the field somewhere. I mean, we're in the mountain where the hunting's going to be taking place. And, you know, one of the things that you know has become very evident too is you learn when you're taken out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's a safe place to take guys out of their comfort zone, but, you know, they're going to learn skills in the actual place where they're going to be hunting. You know, the camp sits at 8,600 foot elevation, and we're going to be, you know, shooting in scenarios that are just like, you know, real life hunting.
Yeah. I think it'd be cool for you to talk, Colton, just a bit on not only where your heart's going with all this pertains to the event, but where you're coming from, what you have to bring. Yeah. Especially to, you know, the father-son aspect of it is, you know, obviously very raw for me, but
for sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, we've always talked about the really cool dynamic of our relationship. The fact that it hasn't been easy. Like it's not like we've had an easy relationship, and it's always been fine and dandy. And you're a great dad, and I'm a great son. But we've always worked for it. We've always taken those tools that we had in the moment and tried to apply them. And I think that the really cool thing that we've had recently is when I got to go to school down in Reading, it was just a huge boost. It was a huge thing that we got to catapult our relationship at the next level because there's only so much we can do on our own knowledge. Like there's just so many things that we, especially when it's so close and in close relationships, you get so bogged down. I think that's the beautiful thing about the father-son relationship and any father-son relationship is that they either get to choose to work through it or they give up. Like they're and more often than not, people do just choose to give up and tolerate each other. Even if they're nice and kind and loving, there's no depth there. And I think that I know for you, like there's always been a huge heart of like there has to be more to a father-son relationship than when you turn 12, you start thinking for yourself, and I just try to keep you out of trouble as long as I can, and then you start making your own decisions. Like there has to be a depth there that there's more to. And I think that after I got to go to school and all that and brought some of those tools back, that we were actually able to explore what that could look like. And I mean, I don't think we've arrived yet, but I do think that there's a lot more to what we have now. And we've been able to have hard conversations. I think that'd be just a short thing is that the first step is always to be able to have hard conversations. And most people don't know how to do that. And so being able to impart just the courage to have hard conversations with people you love, like that is huge for most people. Like they don't even know how to have that hard conversation until they blow up.
Yeah, I know that because my identity was still so much in performance that I felt like if you were failing, then I was certainly failing. And so I can only beat myself up enough. So then I can start shaming you.
Yeah.
And every relationship is always growing. And I think when men just finally get to a place where it's like, be okay with where you're at, but don't stay there.
Yeah.
It's like this shooting school. I've shot my whole life. I've shot for 50 years the wrong way.
Yeah.
And all I needed was some instruction, some different tools and the right equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hitting the mark. And that's sin is missing the mark. And it's just like my whole life, I've been just missing the mark. And I just needed the right dang tools.
Yeah.
And you going to the Bethel School of Ministry, that gave you some tools for us to at least start having the right conversations.
Yeah.
And, because we live in the most fatherless generation that the planet's ever seen, it's not just my opinion. It's not just a religious statement. This is like, anybody that studies sociology, like that's what's going on in our world. That's why, every social problem is getting worse because of a lack of fathers.
Yeah.
And fathers don't want to be bad fathers. They just don't have the tools to do differently.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited for us to be able to give all that we've been given up to this point away.
Yeah.
And, Rob, I know you with daughters, how do you stay connected with the heart of a woman, not just your own wife, but with your daughters, and be this super aggressive man that's fearless?
Well, I mean, I'm working on that every day too. I mean, I just try to be a man that's dangerous, but also, driven by love. And, to some people that looks, scary, it looks weak, but it's not weak. I mean, we talk about the men, the mighty men, David. Those were men that were really dangerous, but they were driven by love.
Mm-hmm.
And if we look at David, King David, I mean, he is the perfect example of that. I mean, he made mistakes, but, through love is the answer. And I think, one of the things that men are missing right now in our, culture is connection to other men, to be able to feel loved, in a group. And when that happens, I mean, you just want more of it. And there's things that get unlocked. Seeing other men connecting in these shooting classes, in the environments that I've participated in both you guys with, lives are changed because they feel a connection that they've never felt anywhere else. And they're getting permission to feel loved and to go home and to share love to the people closest to them.
Yeah.
I really like what you're saying about how like sin is missing the mark, because I think that's a really big misconception, is that the majority of men, I haven't personally met hardly any men that are like, I want to sin. I want to mess up. I want to hurt my family. I want to be a bad father. Like, I've never really seen that.
Right.
Guys want that. They just don't know how. And that's the really sad thing, is that I think every man that has failed in that capacity holds a ton of shame over it. Like they hate themselves over it, and then that just compounds the issue. And so actually being able to let forgiveness come into that, of like, oh, I've made mistakes. And we've had lots, you've got to really exercise that a lot in our relationship.
Yeah. I've perfected failing.
but also like that you've been so good at humbling yourself and saying, I have made mistakes. Like I'm not right all the time. Like I have made these mistakes, actually owning those and being okay with that. And even as a son, like that, it gets talked about a lot more with the father hurting the son, but there is totally a dynamic of this children hurting parents. And so as sons, learning how to come to your father and actually take ownership for your part of it as well. And if a man can actually learn how to do that, the progression just takes such a huge leap in their lives of just being able to own their own crap.
Yeah.
And realizing that, oh, this isn't something, nothing's wrong with me. Like I have my own problems, but there's not something fundamentally wrong with who I am. I just need to learn how to hit the mark more.
Yeah.
And I think that it is a cool parallel and all that with the shooting. And it just is, it's so intriguing to me, because every men's event I've got to go to, and this is partially probably my pride and I've got to do lots of cool things in my lifetime, like hunting and traveling and all sorts of, we always do crazy things together. But every men's event I've always went to felt really, really tame and really, really just kind of structured. And not to say that this doesn't have a schedule, but there's a lot, like you could walk for, how many miles could you walk from Big Park straight across the wilderness?
Yeah, 12 to 20 miles and not touch a road.
Yeah. So, we're on the brink of some of the most wild places in the world. Yeah. And that does something in the heart of a man that they probably wouldn't even realize. But then also being able to be there and learn these tools of, okay, how do I start taking steps towards my family? How do I start rebuilding and repairing the things that I have, and then learn how to not repeat them in the future? And I think that would be my biggest heart to impart to men is, one, how do you own your own stuff? And two, how do you move forward from where you're at?
Yeah, and there could even be guys that, let's say maybe they've got that down, they're doing really well in their family, but they've never been to a wild place.
Yeah.
And they want to come, hang out with other men and do crazy wild things and ride horses and, be on the top of the, large Wyoming rugged mountain.
Yeah.
And the blending of those, two worlds together, I think is what we're bringing together.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's men's events all over the place, and I've been to lots of different formats of them. This is super special to me, one, because I get to do it with my son and my best friend, and so that's awful cool. But this is unlike anything that I know of that's out there. One, it's super small numbers. We're not doing something that's predictable. This is, when you get out in that kind of country, you're riding horses, you're shooting guns. There's just an element of everybody's got to be kind of there to participate. You're not going to come and sit back and just listen or watch other guys do it. And we're all getting invited into this thing to where the camaraderie that men are going to build, they're not going to want to leave that mountain. But when you do, you're coming down with such a different set of tools that it's just like what you're going to learn in the shooting school. You're gonna go from here to wherever, as far as your shooting level. And I believe it's every one of our hearts to make sure that every guy has the tools to succeed in life.
Yeah.
And no man wants to be a failure.
Yeah.
We all want to be the best versions of ourselves. And I'm quite certain that anybody that comes to this event, including myself, I'm just excited about what's going to happen in me as we just give what we have away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's worth saying too how rare of an opportunity it is for somebody to come and hang out with you two. I mean, a lot of the stuff that that you've done, Todd, the numbers. I mean, a lot of times you're in front of hundreds or thousands of people, and guys get a chance to be a part of that. But to be one of 20 people and to be able to hang out with the two of you in an intimate setting, I mean, that's a special thing. I mean, that's rare. So
Yeah.
I think that's worth pointing out too. That's a huge deal.
I believe what everybody needs to recognize that's going on here is that you got two fathers and a son, and we're going to invite everybody into these conversations to where none of us set out to fail in our marriage or fail as a father. And so the conversations that we want to share with how we have and how we are continuing to fight for our marriages, fighting for our kids, and the young guys that are going to come to this thing, just for them to be able to be a part of some of these conversations that you might learn how to do reading, writing, and arithmetic in school, but nobody's teaching how to actually succeed in these areas because it's hard. But I say that anything you do in life worth doing is going to be a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just challenge ourselves to do the things that are worth doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know for me, I'm really excited to see, because obviously this is the first event we've done together. This is the first event me and you have gotten to really partner on. I mean, I've gotten to go to a lot of events with you, but actually partnering together and planning and putting together something is just really unique. And I really hope that we get to do a lot of them, but this one's going to be really special because it is the first, and we're really forging new ground and really trying to figure out what it looks like as we go.
Yeah.
But I'm really, really excited to see what it ends up looking like.
Yeah. So for 30 years, I've seen guys come on the mountain. Some of them get their trophy, some of them don't. But they leave and they didn't find what they were looking for. They leave broken. They leave without, the answer. Something drives us to the mountain. Something drives us up there. We're looking for something that we can't find anywhere else on the planet. And what we're looking for is the answers that we're going to be talking about at this class and at this event. It's the fundamental thing that I think, men are driven to all over to try to find.
Guys, I am so excited because this is going to be our first time doing this type of event, but we haven't had to fabricate everything. It's just happened. You've already got this world-class shooting school going. We've been talking for over a year now. How can we use this mountain camp out right on the edge of the wilderness of Wyoming, and the horses and the scenery and the shooting class, and make sure that men don't come up here and just having a good time and leave the mountain broken? We're going to do an event that's going to make it where every man that comes there is going to have an opportunity to not just learn how to shoot, not just learn how to ride, but we're all going to come home better men with new tools to be the kind of husbands and fathers that we all want to be.